I'm from First AME, and I really want to thank Pastor John McCall for letting us have this place here and have the meeting today. A lot of you I know, and a lot of you I'm familiarized with, so we're good. But just to let you know what's happening, I am your host today. I have a foundation from a 501 called Soul Seed Endeavors. Okay, if you know about the African American Conference, if you know about the Famous Fish for Me, we do a little bit of everything. Plus, I cook for a little bit of everybody. Plus, I used to run all the group homes in the area, plus out in the Inland Empire. But everything's not about me today. It's about you to help me, you, and everybody to help you get some funding and some knowledge about what is here today. We have people here that didn't have to come here, but I love them because they respect what I'm trying to bring to you, and what we're trying to get everybody to be a part of on the same team is cohesiveness and camaraderie and everything else. But make a long story short, I'm gonna let everybody introduce themselves. We have people here from Virginia. I have a lady here, she's from Atlanta, Georgia. We have another lady who probably get in with us because weather-wise she couldn't get in here. And we're doing what we gotta do. But we have a lot of good people here. We have a lot of pastors here. Reverend Alan Espinoza, I'd like to give him a lot of praise. He's from the Pomona Valley Food Bank. Everybody usually gets all the food from him and then everything else that he does through God's pantry. Okay, I know Reverend McCall here, he has a similar thing where they do, where they feed everybody, they do everything here as well. So make sure y'all collaborate. And my brother right here, he's from Born Inc., where I first got my job from, where John McCall got me the job with Born Inc. when I first got here, when I came here from Baltimore. So I have Baltimore skills, and I can find you. But everything is good. I'm here also with my mentors over there, Chef Bill Yee. Bill, turn around, wave with him. Just got the presidential award when we was at a chef event in December. Just got the presidential award for excellent in chef culinary president award. That's a top high honor in the country of the United States. He's also getting ready to travel to what's the place you went to?
Singapore.
He's going to Singapore with 5,000 other chefs, top notch in the country. Did a little bit about his history. He has done the Masters. He's seen Tiger Woods more than we see anybody. So he's done that. He's done the Super Bowl. He does stuff at Dodger Stadium. Also, he has a Pro Chef Foundation, which is getting ready to start. Like I said, that's my mentor. We family, so he's good. The gentleman back there in the back there with the black on with his hands tied behind his back. Most of y'all have met him, but if you haven't noticed, he is one half of my team, that be with my team. He's known as the Mexican Batman. Everybody has a Batman. I'm out for the Robin, but I'm a different kind of Robin, so he'll tell you that. But that's Mr. Chef Louis Clare. And his 82nd Airborne, he just got an award also as well. So now I'm going to get out the way. I'm going to let everybody start from him to her. And then after they get with you, we'll do everything. The way I'm doing the food this morning, everything is already out for you to grab. Okay? We'll make the eggs and the meat. We'll bring it to you as we get it done. Okay? I know that we have some vegans here. I'll deal with them a little later. I know that we have a prayer thing that's going on with certain food they can eat. I made sure that was set up so that will be good. So, Reverend Skinner, I hope you're happy. I got another left for you. I worked with Reverend Skinner for like over 10, 15 years now, so we're good. This is my other brother from First AME. He's a dojo. This is Bruce Lee. I'm Steven Seagal undercover, so we keep it quiet. But he teaches a karate school for all the kids in the neighborhood. Also, he does the transitional, senior, elderly, and everything else. He's here for another thing. Him and his wife, they do a great program. So, Dr. DJ on that. Okay. So, I'm going to get out of the way. I know I have a gentleman in the back from LA Trade Tech. Am I right?
No. USC, LA Trade Tech, Los Angeles.
Okay. So we're going to get to you and we're going to let everybody else get to you too. So right about now, I'm going to get out the way because if I don't get out the way, you can't eat. And also for lunch, I'm just letting you know now up front, I have macaroni salad, string beans, baked chicken, and I have rolls. And for dessert, it's peach cobbler. Okay? So it is what it is. So if you didn't fast before you came in, I can't help you. So sorry. Thanks very much. Let me go do my thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
And thank you, Jim. My name, for those of you that don't know, is Julian Marsh. I came here from actually Richmond, Virginia. The folks that you have here that are going to be leading this session this morning are Ms. Gia Rutledge. And as Jimmy said, Gia came up from Atlanta. Oh, the Gia's actually from this area. And she's over in LA right now visiting my mom who has a birthday this weekend. So Gia, thank you for being here. We have Mr. Gerald Bennett. Gerald works for the federal government. Gerald is involved with several things in the Washington, D.C. area that involve government and other things. He is known for several things, and I'll just say this. One, he was the first African American quarterback, starting quarterback in West Point. So he is a trailblazer. But also, right now, he's an employee of good, so he also heads up the White House HBCU.
This is Chef Louis.
HBCU.
This is the army game. You should use
He
it.
interacts regularly with folks from different departments, from education, from NASA, from commerce, from regularly, and he's really a wealth of knowledge. And myself and Julian Marsh, I've talked to many of them, and I think my background goes from banking to real estate to development to organizational management, and I'll say organizational development, because I guess the last 20-some years of my life, I've spent going into organizations that I haven't followed in. So that is kind of who we are. You'll get a little bit more information as we go along. But what I would like to do, before we get too far, is to have each of you to just give your name, the organization that you represent in 25 words or less. Tell us what it is that you're looking to do. And keep it short because we don't need to get all the details, but just so we have an idea. And what's going to happen, the first thing that we're going to do is have a training session. It will be headed up by Ms. Rutledge. I should say Dr. Rutledge now, Dr. And after that, we're going to break for food. We're not going to lose any weight today. Yes, we're going to have a Q&A. So that all of you, if any questions that you have, feel free to ask Rutledge, myself, Mr. Bennett. Oh, and Michael Windler is here. Michael Windler is a gentleman that I've known. Michael is about 2 years. Time passes quick. He lives in the area here. And Mike has worked with us on several initiatives that involve STEM, funding for STEM initiatives, helping the population that we serve. When I say we, I'm still putting myself in the affordable housing arena. But he's going to sit on the panel also. So Michael, thank you very much for being here today. We're looking forward to picking you up. All right. So with that, I want to start, since you're on the front table. Good morning again. Good morning. It was your name in 25 words or less. Tell us what you do.
My name is Novelet Woods. They call me Navi. And my nonprofit is Regeneration Residential Care. It's for domestic violence, women and children, tiny home community to help them escape from the domestic violence and go into our community where it's a gated community, and that's my goal.
Thank you. And you're doing a whole lot more too.
Yes,
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
This is a very, very powerful young lady.
John McCall, senior pastor here at the Baptist Church, and founder, CEO of the Bill Family and Youth Services here in Pasadena, a community-based mental health organization. And I bought my wish list today of proposals for you.
Thank you.
My name is Stephanie Bailey, and I just started a nonprofit 501c3. It's called Be Ending. It's to help individuals who not necessarily want to be doctors or lawyers, but those people who want to be electricians and they want to be artists, they want to be graphic designers, to give them funding to go to school and support them mentally and financially.
My name is Crystal Alderson. I'm a new member. My thing is the At-Home Laundromat. And it's about 3 years old. And I'm planning on working with the homeless and children.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Dale Yarbrough. I'm with Metropolitan Baptist Church, MCAS, nonprofit, and we're interested in starting a STEM activity program.
Tyrone Skinner, I'm the senior pastor of Metropolitan Baptist Church, and Mr. Yarbrough already said what we're interested in. We want to make sure that we do a community project, especially for our young people, and we promote educational welfare in our community.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Herman Dean Cooper. I'm a guest of Pastor Tyrone Skinner, a member of Metropolitan Baptist Church, currently serving with the trustee ministry, retired active educator, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Johnny Driver, I'm also with Metropolitan. I have no special school.
Okay.
Don't believe it.
Your conversation.
Please do not believe that. Please do not believe that.
Okay.
Well, my name is Zach Dejanet. I'm a Pasadena, in Pasadena born and bred. My wife and I are starting a nonprofit to support artists in the Pasadena area and to support the arts in all its forms.
Thank you.
I'm David Morrow. I just came on board at Born Inc., Born Family Services, as their grant administrator. And for those of you who don't know, Born is a organization that's been around Pasadena about 20 years, servicing kids ages 12 to 17 who've been traumatized, and they provide temporary housing for them, like between court mandated removal from a home or something to that nature, before they can get into a foster situation or transition into a better family situation. So.
Thank you.
I'm Alan Espinosa. I'm the founder for God Provides Ministry, which we do Pomona Valley Food Bank, the Native American Indian Food Bank. We also do the Meals on Wheels for the 4 cities in the area, so we just keep me kind of busy.
I'm her daughter. My name is Joy Rutledge. I'm a junior computer science major at Spelman College, and I have a minor in food studies.
Thank you. And for Gerald, just wave it around.
Hey, Gerald Bennett, and as you said, I represent the United States Military Academy, and some of the things that I do with communities, the West Point, Association of Graduates, and with that hat on, with this hat on, I'm able to do quite a few things and reach into lots of different, components. So that's me. Nutshell, as I said, I do lead an effort that relates to STEM education, STEM engagements for the White House Initiative on HBCUs. Even though you don't have HBCUs around here, you have many people who graduate from HBCUs, and you have an HBCU student.
Yeah, and one of the things that I want to say, as it relates to STEM, whatever, Here has been saying that he's a graduate of West Point. And he and I had many conversations over the last few years about West Point and the number of minority students that go to school there. West Point is considered to be one of the best engineering schools in the country. And anybody that goes to West Point goes to the full ride. Of course, you pay for it by spending some time in the military. But I've had several conversations with folks that have thought about going into the military, and what I always say, and being perfectly honest, is that when I look at my son as an example, what I've said is, if you want to go to the military, I'm not going to stop you. But if this is something, if this is not what you really want to do, don't do it. But I've talked to a lot of young folks that say that they want to go to the military. And what I say to them is, if you're going to go to the military, especially the Army, would you rather go in as the person being shot at, or would you rather go in being the people that are planning things, designing things, and supporting that group? And that's a need for everybody. But West Point is considered one of the finest engineering schools in the country. They produce a lot of brilliant people, many of whom I know Mr. Bennett. So, especially for those folks that are thinking of STEM careers, and especially engineering, consider that. And if you have young people that are thinking about it, what you might want to do is have a conversation with Mr. Bennett. Thank you, Charlie. And thank you for your service. Mike?
Yeah, my name is Michael Rumler. I'm an architect. I teach at USC in something called the Safe Community Institute. And my focus is on simulation technology and what simulation technology is. And we're working with the County of Los Angeles and the Department of Health Services with a group specifically focused on de-escalation of violence as a national health issue. My real interest is in environment. I have an adage I use. There's two sides of one coin. One side's social justice, the other side's environmental justice. You can't have one without the other. And that seems to have polarized our community. Some people say Michael's a tree hugger. Other people say he's a social scientist. So that's who I am, that's what I'm working on. And I'm super happy to be here. And I love Gerald Bennett, and I love Julian Marsh. And you have been working with them for quite a while, so you got a great team here.
Thank you. Chef?
Hi, my name is Bill Yee. I'm the Artistic Director of the Alhambra Performing Arts Center. I'm the Executive Director for the American Culinary Federation Los Angeles chapter, and a few other things. We're also starting a foundation called 12 Chefs Foundation. It's to help to provide training, free training for the community, for people who want to get into the culinary industry. And we also provide food for the community. And here we hope to learn more about the opportunities with grant proposals and this wonderful group here. Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you. In the back, sir?
Oh, I'm just the microphone guy, so.
You're the important guy. Okay. So with that,
I'll read mine and keep it short. So my name is Rita Roberts. My organization is called Yes I Am. It's an organization focused on the education, enrichment, and overall wellness of youth and their families. And the program is designed to introduce participants to options beyond their normal scope and environment and help enable them to thrive in the world at large. So these programs can be offered as after-school programs, summer programs, standalone modules, and they range anywhere from homework assistance, study groups, to agriculture, science, arts, financial wellness, and more. And we also partner with animal rescue and construction companies for building of homes and community.
Thank you,
Yeah.
and welcome. Okay, and with that, pay CBS if you have not seen me at the break. And with that, I'm going to introduce Ms. Rutledge. Judy, you can tell a few things more about yourself if you choose to, but she is going to give us a basic training on grant writing, etc. I think when you finish this, you're going to be wow. And after that, as I said, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to have a Q&A for all of you. So write down your questions as the training is occurring, and we'll be talking to you later. Thank you.
So I think I need a mic. Can everybody hear me? I have 4 daughters, so I can talk loud. So, again, I'm Dr. Gia Rutledge. This is my daughter Joy. She's passing out some note cards so you can write your question and answer. Throughout, at the end, I'll answer all the questions because we're a little pressed for time. As you all know, I flew in from Atlanta. My mom is turning 70 on Sunday. She has 16 grandkids, 4 which are mine, and 4 great grandkids. So we had to make sure we would give her her flowers while she was here. So I'm planning a big party today, so I have to leave as the only girl to go make sure that everything's in order. I was born and raised here in South Central LA. Everybody knows prior to the riot, it was just LA. Post-riot, it became South Central LA. So, little distinction. I went to the Los Angeles Center for Rich Studies. I would say I benefited from the choice program. My neighborhood school was Crenshaw and Dorsey. One brother went to Crenshaw, one brother went to Dorsey. My mom said, you are going to the other side of LA to go to school. I had the benefit of going to the #1 school in LA Unified, which is Los Angeles Center for Rich Studies, magnet school, 712. Left, I went to Hampton, went to little HBCU. I went to the best cold. Cold in Hampton for me. So El Nino hit the East Coast. So I transferred to UC San Diego and went to school on the beach. I did my master's at the University of Arizona in community health. And I recently came back home, moved here pre-pandemic to get my doctorate at USC in policy planning and development. So I'm a Trojan, so fight on. I've spent 25 years plus in public health, designing programs. So a lot of people say, are you a grant writer? No, I develop programs. So it's different. You know, some people write grants, they didn't know how to fill out paperwork. I develop programs. So in program development, I take what you have, what your mission, your vision, your idea is, and I package it. Develop it so that it can be evaluated, implemented, and evaluated. I've had the benefit to be able to do that for the federal government for 17 years. So I'm on both sides. So been able to write grants, put the packages out, review them, score them, implement them, and evaluate them at the national level. Report to Congress what our impacts were, so we could then keep getting funded at the division I work at in government. So, much more complex than just writing a grant. So, I'm a researcher, I'm a scientist, so I also develop programs for impact. I go out, I know how to research and figure out what is the most recent evidence-based strategies, activities, interventions that are happening in that niche. So my research skills allow me to make sure not only that we're developing a program that it works, but how can we develop a program that not only works scientifically and have evidence to prove that it works, but then how do we tailor it for your community and the neighborhood that you're putting it in? No such thing as build it and they'll come. Like, how do we build it for your community to ensure that they'll come and it'll work and can be in? So, I usually write grants for large organizations, cities, courts, and I'd like to take beginning nonprofits through this for folks who haven't gone after a federal grant or haven't gone after a grant over $500,000. Because you have to position yourself
by the time these grants come out, you have 30 days, 2 weeks. Mike will tell you they've called me and they've had 5 days. So you have to have already some things written out in position, preferably when you come to me, so that if we have 5 days, we can make it strong, you know, we can strengthen it. So I'm gonna walk you through how do you position yourself? How do you proactively start to prepare for grants? All right? So these are 4 types of grants. You have federal grants that come from federal agencies, it's appropriated from Congress. They give a specific department amount of money and tell them, okay, we need to develop programs around education. They fund your states oftentimes, they fund large nonprofits, highly competitive, and they usually fund national organizations. So depending upon what agency you're going for, sometimes they want to know, do you have a reach across at least 3 states? Can you scale this program, or can you go across 3 cities? I am a subject matter expert in building to scale. Do not ask me to build you a program if you don't want to scale it at some point, okay? Because that's how you get federal money. That's how you get larger grants. They want to know that if I give you this money and it works, that even I, as the federal government, can scale it in other cities and show them that this is how we solve a problem nationally. Then you have state and local governments. Oftentimes, this money comes from here. So states get the money from the feds, and then they have to disperse it to nonprofits in their communities, cities in their communities. Then you have foundations. Disclaimer, I don't like writing these grants. I don't. They're not objective. They're very subjective, who you have a relationship with. So I tell people, do not bring me a foundation grant unless you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. Because oftentimes, depending upon the foundation, they've already got entities that they want to fund when they put that grant out, okay? Corporations are a little bit more objective. They're kind of same flavor. Oftentimes it's a larger corporation. They're too big to be picky choosy, so it's a little bit more objective. When I say objective, I mean they have a scoring criteria. They're going to fund you based off who scored the highest, regionally where it's dispersed, and the types of programs. So I always tell people, when you're looking for a grant, ensure that your funding, that funding matches your scope of work. Oftentimes, we haven't been able to be impactful as nonprofits or cities because we're moving the needle to fit a grant. So you're changing your program, you're changing your strategies to fit that funding source, not sticking to a program and implement it as it goes. You're changing it in order to fit what somebody's funding you for. When you see, as I walk you through this, when you start changing the stuff to implement based on funding source, you sometimes then get out of the scope of what your mission is, or out of the scope of who the people you intended to serve. So try to find grants that actually focus on what it is that your mission, your vision, your strategies and objectives are for your organization, so that you can be impactful in what it is you set out to do. And you're not stretching yourself, okay? So these are the key components I want to kind of walk you guys through. I'll show you just on a basic funding application, kind of how do you read and see from a quick glance. Some of these grants are really big. These are the things that you want to make sure you look at. These are always like kind of the outline of what a grant or a request looks like. It'll give you a funding description. It'll tell you the award information, like how much money is this going to be for how many years. It'll give you eligibility information. Sometimes it'll say we'll fund nonprofits but not local school districts, or we'll fund nonprofits but only a 501c3. So ensuring that you even have the right nonprofit criteria. It'll tell you maybe even what state they're funded in, and what the target audience is. What program requirements are, what are they requiring you to do in that grant? What are the scope of work essentially? What are budget requirements? If you see the word match, unless you got some money, you don't wanna apply for it. Meaning, we'll give you 100K, but you have to also put up 100K from somewhere else. If they say match, but the match can be in kind, meaning you have enough people to say, okay, you're gonna donate 10% of your time, that might equate to $10,000, you know? Then you can do in kind. But if it just says match with other funding sources, I always tell people to stay away from those, because you have to bring that amount of money to the table and show that you have it. Okay. Application review criteria is basically the sections that they're asking you for. It's like an outline. Your application is gonna be reviewed off of this criteria, and you're gonna get X amount of points for each of these sections. And then any supplemental material. Oftentimes supplemental material is letters of support, copies of your nonprofit 501c3 status. Sometimes it might ask for resumes from your staff, and any partnership agreements. This is an example of what a grant table of contents looks like. Oftentimes, this says page 1 of 50. So, this scares people. Some people don't even want to read. This is the application. It's 50 pages. Now, you want to sit down and read the whole 50 pages? Or you want to go to the stuff I just told you first? You want to go to page 12. Who's eligible for this? Because if I'm not eligible, why am I reading all 50 pages? Right? You want to know on page 14, cost sharing or matching. Again, you got to put money up. I don't need to read to page 50. We're going to start at page 14. Program-specific requirements, that's the scope of work. Do you have the staff? Do you have the partners? Do you have the people at the table that actually can help you meet these requirements? Applications, submission dates and times. Do you have enough time to get it done? And then what the review criteria is. That's essentially how I always start building out outlines for grants. When I first start writing, I go to page 30, wherever the review criteria is, and that's how I build the outline. You need something?
Oh, no, I'm just curious, you know, I recognize that something, so what grant is that?
That's a HUD grant.
Yeah, which one?
This is the GRRPE, the Green and Resilient Retrofit Program. So this grant is open. So if you're a local housing authority, there's a grant out right now for doing energy efficiency. So it'll change out all the windows, all the electricity, if it's gas to electricity, if you wanna go solar. So this is an open grant. And again, the eligibility criteria for this is a local housing authority or an entity that accepts housing vouchers, okay? So for the most part, all federal grants look like this outline. So this is an example of what a review criteria looks like. You have to develop a description of the issue or problem. What are your goals and objectives and performance measures you're going to use for this grant? What's your project design and implementation? What are your agency's core capabilities and competencies? And then a budget. So I'm going to kind of walk through. This is some things that you can do to be able to prepare and have content already written. So as you're applying for multiple grants, you know, statistic is it takes you to apply to 10 grants to get one. It doesn't take that from me, but not if I'm writing it, but that's the average. So this is an example of a review criteria, and specifically this HUD Green and Resilient Retrofit Program. So past performance and evaluating applications for funding, HUD will consider an applicant's past performance in managing funds. Have you got any other grants before? How have you managed those funds? What were you able to accomplish with what you were given? Assessing applicant risk and evaluating risk posed by applicant. HUD may use a risk-based approach. Did you get any funding before in the past that then you weren't able to meet those requirements? You weren't able to work to reach that impact. And then experience promoting racial equity and evaluating applicants for funding. HUD will consider the extent to which the application demonstrates the applicant has experience, meaning you have staff, resumes, and that supplemental material that matches what this application is asking you to do. I'll walk through things to be able to pull together. Do you have partners that you've shown that already have experience, particularly working in this, for this application in Black and Brown? So, I always say start early, start now. Don't wait till the application is due. These are things that you can, I always say, create a file on your desktop, and for each of these things that I walk you through, you can create a sub-file and start to pull that stuff in. Pulling in resumes, pulling in budgets. So I'll walk you through each of these sections. So these general components of all applications, whether it's federal, state, foundation, all of them are gonna ask you for a program background. They're gonna ask you to define the program, a description of the activities or what you plan on doing, organizational management structure, evaluation, and a budget. So these are 6 sub-file folders you should have, and documents that you can start to write. So I'll go over program background. So you want to start to document your program's organizational history. When was your program established? How and why your program was established? Do you have a mission and vision statement? Do you have goals, objectives? Have you written down and documented all your past experience or accomplishments? So for every event you've done, this is even with no money, whether you've got grant funding or not. Every event you've had, are you collecting data on those people who attended? How many people did you have? How old were they? What was their race and ethnicity? What were the activities that happened at that event? Did somebody donate food, you know? And what was the value of that food? Did somebody donate backpacks? Did you do a backpack event? Well, how many backpacks did you get? And who donated them to you? These are all things you can start to collect in an Excel spreadsheet. For every event you do, you should be collecting data. You can pass out a survey too at the end and say, were you satisfied with this event? You know, what more can we do next time? You can do needs assessments at those events so that you can then say, we had XYZ event and we collected 100 surveys and now we know the needs of our community, right? So here's just, how do you write a mission and vision statement? The mission statement is present time. It describes what you're doing, who benefits from your work, and it's intended to clarify the what and who of the company. So for example, we strive to offer our customers the lowest possible prices, the best available selection, and the utmost convenience. I'm gonna ask you guys who this is after you read the vision. It's future. It explains the overall goal of your organization looking into the future, and adds the why and how as well. It is Habakkuk 2:2-4. I always tell people that's the first thing when I give a work plan. You should go read Habakkuk 2:2-4. It says, write your vision and make it plain. So he didn't run it, read it, run with it. For surely it's gonna come at a point in time. You don't know the point in time, but it's gonna come. So this example is to be the Earth's most customer-centric company where customers can find and discover anything they might want to buy online. You see this? They went from customer to Earth. That means the world, everybody, right? Your vision should be something that you can't do today. You don't know how you're gonna do it. You like, this is impossible. That's how your vision should be, okay? Something, I'm gonna build a rocket ship. You know how long ago Amazon wrote this vision? What is Amazon doing now? They got packages dropping off of drones all over the earth, right? This is HUD's Choice Neighborhood Initiative vision. You're going after HUD money, you gotta make sure your vision aligns with their vision. So when you think about what government sector that your organization aligns with, it might be one, it might be two, it might be three. Make sure you're using their language, that you're in alignment with who you're asking money for. Am I saying change your vision every time you apply for a grant? No. But when you're trying to understand every problem we have in our society, there's a federal agency that has money to solve that problem. Find out what agency is that for you. I offer sessions, this is what I do. I research. You have to research the problem, you have to research the solutions, and then you have to innovate those solutions and tailor them. So this is an example. HUD addresses these 4 pillars. So they have a vision for each of these pillars, right? I call this a collective impact. You cannot address poverty, let's say, with addressing one thing. Can't give a poor person just somewhere to live. Can't give a poor person just food or just a job. I say there's 10 holes in a boat for poverty. You gotta fill all 10 holes in that boat, or that boat is still gonna sink. It's just gonna sink slower. So when we think about what we're doing, think about it as a collective impact. I'll talk about that a little bit more as well. As a part of the proactive planning process, these are some steps you can go through in your strategic planning process. Yes?
Can I just add a little bit of something to the slide that you just had up there, the choice? Just like she said, there are 10 holes in the boat, and all of you all represent the 10 holes. But the priority the priority that might be needed today might be the priority that you're bringing to the table. And, but it's important to show that you're going to address the priority, but you have the capacity to address the 9 other, priorities. That's why it's important to, as she said, to operate a collective impact. So if you get that, it sounds simple. It's hard to do, to work together, but that's the way to success. But I just want to say we're looking for one thing that will, or 2 things that will address this year, next year, but 2 years, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, focus will shift, and that's when the other priorities that you have, will come to fore, to allow you to be scored more favorably. Thank you.
Correct. And this is I'll talk more about how do you develop a collective impact of partners. This is that letters of support, those critical partners help you strengthen your application too. So this is something that shouldn't be done in a bubble. This is something where you bring your partners together. You, as the lead, the director, the executive director, the creator of the nonprofit, you need to create your mission and vision, and that's gonna drive everybody else. So you create your mission and vision, you identify your partner, and you bring them to the table and you walk through this exercise together collectively. You want to know what are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound strategies that you want to accomplish. You can do this by year, 3 years, 5 years. What strategies, what and how and key activities, core services are going to be implemented. What activities need to be done within each of those strategies. And then who are key partners you need to reach your target audience or implement these things. Like Daryl said, you don't have to be able to do it all, but if you have a partner that can do it, you bring that partner to do it because they're the subject matter expert in this. And that's what collective impact does. It allows a baker to be a baker and then to have a CPA who's going to do the math because she don't want to do math, she just wants to bake. So same for a nonprofit. If you're housing, but you know people that you're providing housing for need food, then you go to gentleman in the red shirt to make sure you have a partner that can bring you food. But you don't have to worry about, I gotta do the food, I gotta get him a job, I gotta get him housing. There's partners that subject matter experts that already have the resources, they already have the past performance. You just bring them to the table and you collectively work to serve your target audience. So this is a evidence-based framework. So when I say I'm a scientist, collective impact isn't something that I made up. There's evidence that supports this to show that it works. There's frameworks to be able to implement it and do it. You all have a common agenda, a shared vision for change. That's the vision that you created. That you're like, I'm creating this vision. Is this your vision too? If it's not your vision, we're not gonna be great partners. How can two walk together if they don't agree? You gotta all be on the same page, a common agenda. You have to have shared measurement. You're collecting data, you're measuring results. You're focused on giving people a house. You need to give me 10 housing units. You focus on feeding 10 people. I need you to tell me you fed those 10 people. But I don't need you to collect data on her housing. So it allows you to stay in your zone. You all, every time you meet, you know that this is what I'm responsible for. And there's shared accountability. You have mutually reinforcing activities. You don't have the same activities that she has. But they are mutually reinforcing. They support one another. You cannot have a workforce program for women if you don't have access to daycare for the women. Okay? So do you have a partner that's going to give daycare? That's mutually reinforcing. They go together. Okay? So, it's important in our communities. Our churches should be our backbone organization. Does it mean the church has to give all of those services? No. The church can be the backbone organization that gets the money that then subcontracts with everybody else. You're the orchestrator. So you don't have to worry about feeding them. You're going to bring him to the table to feed them. You don't have to worry about finding housing for domestic violence. She's going to bring that to the table. But you're the orchestrator. You establish the vision. You work with them to plan, make a plan. Okay? Does that make sense? This is called a multi-component approach when it comes to funding and implementation of programs. I call it public-private partnerships. When people ask me, what do you do? Yeah. I consult on public-private partnerships. I help to build these teams of public-private partnerships. We're using public money. We can use private money. And we can work with a housing authority, or we can use, all this is like a dance, you know? If everybody knows what their mutually reinforcing strategy is in a lane, it makes this approach work together. So, goals and objectives, you want to describe your expectations, some of the long-term outcomes. You want to develop a way to measure this by setting objectives, or actually, how do I implement that goal? So for every goal, you might have 5 objectives. This language transitions also to a strategy and an activity, right? That makes sense. You have a strategy you want to do, but then how do you get it done? What activities do you have to do? And that's where you, is it specific, is it measurable, is it attainable, is it relevant, is it time-bound? So here's an example. You want to expand Sunshine After School program. But the objective under that is by this date, we're going to recruit 100 girls from Liberty Elementary School to participate in the after school program. Okay? So it tells us the specific. You want to define the problem. This oftentimes can be a needs assessment. These are my favorite talks when I do in churches, because if you haven't noticed, I have a little church team. I teach also in the faith-based space. Work in youth ministry and women's ministry. And when it comes to defining the problem, I don't know if you guys ever heard of the 7 Mountain Prophecy. But there's essentially 7 mountains of influence around the world. And they fall in these economy, government, media, celebration, education, family, and religion. There are problems that exist across these 7 mountains, and oftentimes you all have the solution. And this is also how funding could be organized as well too, funding buckets. Understanding your service area, demographics, education, employment, health status, access to food, access to services. What are other programs in the area? You might not be a partner with them, but if you start to identify who they are, you can establish partnerships. So you want to be able to know who can I reach out to that's already getting funding for some of the things that's meeting your service population. You can bring in the partner. So when you go apply for funding, you can say, we already have this partner at the table, and they're funded by XYZ to give health screenings, you know? So you're able to do a program stack. In funding, we call it the capital stack, where you have all these different streams of capital, but there's also this thing called human capital. And most people don't understand in the church, we have human capital. Your organizations, you have human capital. People you serve, even if you don't have money, they're humans and they're your capital because they are your community. They are who these programs are trying to reach. And then you have relationship capital. You might not be able to do it, but you might know somebody who can do it. These are all things that you have to leverage when you're going after funding. So we talked about this common agenda. When you have a shared understanding of the problem and the need, then you can establish a common agenda. Who's your organization serving? What are their needs? What statistics and data, graphs and tables do you have to support that? So this is an example of a figure I would put in the grant. If I was writing a grant based off youth, right? You want to understand what's the high school graduation rate? How many of them prepare for science? How many of them have performed in other countries, you know, in comparison to U.S.? So this is just the type of images or the type of data you want to bring to the table. So how do you summarize your program description of activities? These mutually reinforcing activities we talked about is part of that needs assessment. You want to know who's your partner, what do they do best? They might could do everything, but what are they known for? What do they do best? So that when you partner with somebody that is bringing a partnership, that is something that they just flow in, it makes that partnership easier for them because it's not like they're kind of bent over backwards to try to get it done. And that's why collective impact works because it allows you to do what you're a subject matter expert in. You're not being stretched to do that thing that you kind of have to do because you know your community or your population needs it. So in this description of activities and in that original planning process, you want to ask them and have an understanding of what are their key activities and what they do. How will you provide what is needed to solve the problem identified? What's your project plan? With whom will you collaborate or partner with to extend the reach or influence of the project? How will this grant impact your organization? I always say once you establish this partnership, establish a memorandum of understanding or memorandum of agreement. That then goes in your appendice of your grant. It's stronger than a letter of support because it says we're in agreement with this organization and we've already made a deal together. You know, it goes from dating to marriage. You know? Letter of support is like, yeah, I like you, but a MOU is we married now. Okay, I'm gonna stand by this organization. This is an example of a summary table I would put, you know? So for every strategy that we talked about earlier, you have the strategy, you have this mutually reinforcing activity, but then you have a partner that you can say, this is who's gonna do that. Then you, as a background organization, you can just do this. Or you could also be involved in some of these things, but you don't have to do all of this yourself, okay? That's how you develop a strong collective impact. Then, let's say this partner that's going after, or agriculture, let's say they going after a grant. This table don't change. You're gonna support them too. So now it becomes all of us have the support we need every time we go after a grant. I'm gonna come to the table and help you too. I'm gonna help strengthen your application too. Okay? This is an example also of what does a collective impact model look like. Let's say you've done a needs assessment. You know you need affordable housing. You need mental health services. You need a workforce development in your community. You need some small business development, and then you need some DEI support. You don't have to do all of this. You can have a partner that can help with each of these, but you work with them to then identify, well, how many houses can you build? Because I'm not gonna put 100 on here if you can't build 100, right? How many people can you service, and what social service? Can you address methadone addiction treatment in your mental health? You know exactly what services then also fall under each of these, okay? So it's not beyond your scope, so you don't feel stressed out, you're not over-promising, you're also not under-promising. So when it comes to organizational structure, again, these are all components that you need to be able to describe when you apply, no matter who you're applying to. What is your organizational structure for your nonprofit? You have an org chart. You know how many of these I've done for grants? All of them. Know how many have been outdated? Almost all of them. Do you know how many don't have, this is highlighted? You know why it's highlighted? Because I can put a resume in there, but if your organization ain't on that person's resume, not they're gonna be your key staff. Now if they're a partner, it's different. But they don't ask for partner resume. They ask for partner letter of support and memorandum of agreement. You might could include a bio. But for the most part, you have to make sure all your staff have a resume on file. And it's not a PDF. So that if you need to add it, change it, tweak it, make sure the language aligns with what you're doing, you can edit it. And then understanding everybody's role, what's their capability for the roles on the project, what's your anticipated salary, what percent time that they have. Most budgets, I'll say 90% of federal budgets is all staffing, unfortunately. I say unfortunately because sometimes we just need to pay for services. If you pay for services, you would get better impact, and then they actually can't pay you unless that person shows up. When you got a grant and 90% of it is staff, that staff might never leave the office. It is what it is. But you need to know how much you're gonna pay people so that when we go to do the budget, we for sure aren't gonna underpay people. We'll adjust their percent time to make sure that the budget comes to the, whatever that, it's 500,000, 500,000, or 499,099 cents. We can play with the percent time, but we don't have to really change the salary, so people are being valued for what they do. I go back to this collective impact approach because it takes a collective impact to address the needs of the community. It takes a collective impact, again, to do a workforce development program. Your workforce development program is not going to be successful if you just training people. And you didn't go get a partner for daycare, like I said, because they're not going to show up for training if nobody's watching their kids. So you have to make sure, even though it might be an unfunded activity, you've thought about all those things, and then find somebody who's funded to do that, that can provide you that daycare. That also, again, strengthens your application. We've got all these things to meet the possible challenges that might happen. Transportation. You have transportation written into the grant. You have a partner. You found out how to get funding vouchers from Uber, you know? What have you done to make sure there's mutually reinforcing activities to support what you need to get done, or your program isn't gonna be as impactful? So it goes back to that partnership assessment. Who's the partner? What do they offer? Who do they serve? What's their cost of service? Who's the key point of contact? You're gonna do this before you even get to that MOU level. You need to, this is part of your needs assessment. Maybe a little bit of church. Everybody knows the 12 tribes, they moved in a collective impact framework. They moved together. Each tribe gathered under a separate standard, but clustered in groups of 3 under each standard. They all had their own specialties. Tribe of Judah was not trying to do what Tribe of Issachar was doing. Tribe of Zebulun was not trying to do what the Tribe of Dan was doing. Their position completely different. Each tribe had a particular job to do it, and each with a particular trait that formed their character through the tribe. Each of your organizations have a specific trait. That trait is oftentimes your calling, what you were called to do. Okay? So it says we must study the tribes and failures and victories to learn how struggles of faith are causing us to become overcoming leaders. That was a quote by Chuck Pierce. He said, if we're positioned correctly, we can help each other accomplish our ultimate purpose in life. So God was at the center of the tabernacle, at the center of the nonprofit. Recognizing God's key presence with his movement was key to Israel's advancement and victory. Each tribe had a gift and a prophetic destiny, but the fullness of their destiny depended on the whole. So again, no daycare, you go to work. No housing, can't go to work. No food, kids can't think in school to do a STEM program. You got an after school program, you're not feeding kids snacks, forget it. I don't know about y'all, but my kids come home from school and I'm like, did y'all eat lunch today? Nothing is, they don't even watch TV without eating. Do you think they're gonna do a STEM activity without eating? You have to ensure you have understand your part in the whole. Each tribe has a weakness and a strength. As a nonprofit, you have to understand what your weakness is and go find a partner that can fill it. You don't have to create a new program. You don't have to find out a solution. Somebody has that solution. So again, their position also helps in their protection and their advancement. So this is another good quote I want to include. And each one went straight forward. They went wherever the Spirit wanted to go, and they did not turn when they went. And they went in that order. They all went in this order. It wasn't Dan coming first, you know. There's a specific order and steps, even in the things that you have to do as a nonprofit to ensure that you want federal funding, if you get any local, state, private, is a stepward, a budget. This is going to change. It'll change for every grant you write. But what doesn't change is what that base salary is. We can move people's percent time. We can move, you know, how much you're going to travel. But there should be some shell of understanding how much equipment you need and how much that costs, what supplies you need, how much that's going to cost. And it's the basics, like 1 unit. Because if we don't serve, this grant might let us serve 50 people. We just need to go to the math to increase or decrease as needed. But have a base budget. For evaluation, again, my other subject matter teaching evaluation. How do you use data to leverage funds and scale up? If you want to keep getting money from the organization that gave you money, evaluate your program and show me work. Evaluate your program that this organization gave you to get money from another organization. So data is also capital. We all know that. Who do you think Google? You Googling, you do pay. Gmail don't pay to Google. The data they sell, your data pays for Google, right? They sell the data. So what are your projected measurable outcomes? Your short-term results show what people are learning, awareness, knowledge, attitudes, skills, opinions. Your medium-term outcomes or intermediate outcomes, they show a change in action, behavior, practices, decision-making, whether policies were implemented or not implemented. And then your long-term outcomes show, is there a change or impact on the impact of any social conditions, health outcomes, economic outcomes, or environmental outcomes. There are a lot of tools that are free out there that you can use that even not only collect the data for you, but you ask this question and you give these options, they'll give you a graph and chart of your results. You don't even have to analyze the data. SurveyMonkey actually analyzes the data for you too. You have pre-test, post-test, satisfaction surveys, needs assessment, SurveyMonkey, and then you could basic reporting in Excel of counting the people that are attending, right? When you think about every opportunity you have to sit down with folks, you can have them fill out a survey after. You can send them a link, they can open it from their phone. SurveyMonkey is very, very conducive to use a cell phone to do a survey. You don't even have to open up your laptop or desktop. It'll tell you how many seconds it takes. You put 5 questions in there, it'll say this will take 8 seconds to finish, you know? It estimates the time to finish it, so. I'm gonna skip this one, this is relevant. So preparing to apply, if you are a nonprofit 501c3, go into register on SAMS.gov. You cannot apply for a federal grant without having these 2 things done, a SAMS registration and a UEI requirement. It's not something that you can do in a week. It's not something you can do in 2 weeks. So if the grant's due in 2 weeks and you don't have this done, I'm gonna tell you, maybe next time. But because these systems don't talk to each other well, you gotta call a help desk. Help desk might be closed at 11 o'clock when you want to push them in. So you want to make sure these systems work, they talk to each other, and says, yeah, it can take up to 4 weeks. So I say even do it now, prepare now, because the grant might come out, you don't know when it's going to come out. A lot of these aren't on a standard timeline, unless it's a, we call them like a large number where every 5 years they're released. You can kind of look at the last 5-year application and know about the time it might be released, but oftentimes these just show up. Different funding resources, if you're looking for federal grants, grants.gov, state grants, you want to look at your state government's website. Foundation Center and Philanthropy News Digest and Andy Casey Foundation, they post foundation grants across multiple foundations. An example of a corporate is like Chick-fil-A. So you can, any corporate entity that you're thinking about might fund what you're doing. If you're funding youth programs, you can go on NikeFoundation.com. So you can put the name of the entity and foundation and Google it and find that foundation behind that corporate. These were open HUD grants. I don't think, do we have any local housing authorities in here? Here's some USDA rural development grants for multi-housing, family housing projects. If you didn't know, now the USDA has a new Office of Urban Agriculture and Productive Innovation. This is the first time ever there's been an urban aspect for farming. What this now does says that if you're an urban farm, you can apply for any rural development grant. It opens the floodgates for urban farms or communities that would like to incorporate agriculture into the work they're doing. As long as there's an ag piece to it, you can apply for the USDA grant. You can apply for, basically, like you have an EIN number for a nonprofit or small business, or to get any USDA funding, you need an FSA ID number. Before, you could not apply for an FSA ID number unless you were a rural farm and you came up on the map as a USDA zone ag. Now, anybody can apply for an FSA ID number.
All right.
And then that would allow you to apply for any program. There's way, way more than these. It doesn't even synapse. A lot of people don't know USDA has more money than HUD when it comes to housing and programs and services. So, my email is here, info. You can write that down. You can email me. Basically, that process that I showed you with the green stepwise, I do some strategic planning with nonprofits. If you want to go through that strategic planning process to flesh this out. I have some clients that I also strategic plan to do all this pre-writing on the front end as well. So feel free to email me and we can set up consult. But I think that's it. If you have questions, what time? Since we.
I have a question, do we just pass the card or do we just ask it?
If you guys, did you write questions on the card? If you wrote questions on the card, we'll grab it from you. And then, but you can go ahead and ask
It just
it.
came out, which is a food rescue program for the state of California. We move a lot of produce. It's not, I don't know where that would call it at. Because we actually bring the produce and distribute it into family packs, and we ship to other parents and organizations for distribution. But it's a food rescue program. Does that qualify for, because it's in the millions of pounds, it's not like a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So they have USDA production and sales, production, and distribution, grant, loans.
Okay, and that could be applied under the USDA grant?
Yeah, so it would be a USDA grant, yeah.
Okay.
So we could do some searches to see which one, but there's definitely production and distribution.
Yeah, because it does require, mode of transportation of the product as well as a large amount of refrigeration.
Yep, and there are grants that actually, not only grants, there's programs that pay for refrigeration that actually bring in those resources as well. And I would even reach back to see, are there some direct farm to production relationships that you can build too, where you can actually.
I do, I have those, but they're kind of small.
Good question. So your grant writing expertise is it primarily federal grants or state grants?
So I can write them all. Yeah. My expertise is writing them on both ends of it. So putting out and
Because we recently got denied, we submitted a Sanford grant to become a certified behavioral healthcare tech.
Okay.
And very competitive across the state or whatever in the nation. And only so many per year, so.
Jackson don't have no money.
No.
It's unfortunate. They're one of the most underfunded federal agencies. So if the feds don't have the money, then they can't even really distribute it to the state. So it makes it highly competitive and the same people funded over and over and over. I have a mental health client another thing I tell people in our strategy sessions, sometimes you think you have to apply for a grant. Oftentimes, the services you provide are actually contractual services too. So in your instance, especially with paper help, so we start applying for bids and contracts with the state. Because then you're paid on a fee-for-service basis for each person you serve. So you have to really assess, is this service that I'm providing, is it fee-for-service, that I can also go after contracts and bids that the state or the feds are offering, or is this something I need to go through my for-profit for to apply to as a grant?
And because we're currently looking at, well, this week, yesterday, in fact, 2 grants, Cal-Aim reform in California, funding, and so we'll talk, we'll email you and see if we're able to talk. Cal-Aim has some funding out now on the Department of Health Services, I think it's round 3. With the new Cal-Aim reform that came in this year, and another one is a wellness coach, that's out right now. So we have, again, I think we may have took a leap too far with SAMHSA, and we were hoping, it was like, it was a broad stretch, but we thought we had a good proposal, and we'd like to, we want to look at it.
You can actually request your scores too.
Yeah.
Yeah, request your scores. I always tell people, if they've written a grant that they got denied, that then they want me to apply for, I ask them, I said, go request your scores. So when you request your scores, they have to give you your scores. So oftentimes 3 people review your grant. They have to score it, and they have to give you strengths and weaknesses. So then you know, like, well, this is what I need to do to fix this, the next time I write it.
My last question is, how much does the politics play, going to Washington and meeting with your representative or your senator, in terms of certain grants? Does that factor in much these days, or is it just